Welcome to the Multifamily Innovation Podcast. I am here today with Patrick Antrim, the founder of Nectar Flow, and we are so happy to have you here today, Patrick.
Awesome. It's actually great to be on this side of the table.
I know, I get to interview you for a change.
Yeah.
So you said something really interesting earlier, and that made me want to get on a podcast. You said AI is the new value add.
Yeah, so if you think about the purpose of multifamily, I think a lot of people get so ingrained into what to do to operate and what to do with this and that. But end of the day, it's to create value for an investor, right? And to provide housing, shelter, an alternative to home ownership, maybe a step up to home ownership. And to the extent that we as investors can come into a business and increase the value of that business, the investors can get their yields. Now, the problem with that today is it's getting harder and harder.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason for that is the cost of capital, deal flow, construction delays, construction costs, even getting approvals on developments. Then you add in the fact that an apartment building has a fixed unit set. In other words, you might have a 300-unit property.
Mm-hmm.
That's what you have.
Yeah.
Right? And so with affordable housing being a problem today, in that we just can't keep asking the customer to keep paying more.
Right.
We have to look at our business differently in ways to operate more efficiently. In some cases, that's even a challenge to get people to even work for the organizations, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when we can bring an experience for an employee into an organization and you can create a more profitable organization, the investor still gets their yield, right? The customer gets what they want. Employees are doing the work that they enjoy doing because we've gotten all of the sort of redundant, the tasks that where they make errors out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
And we can provide truly a healthy business. Now, if I'm looking at deals today, I may not be doing development at the filming of this podcast.
Right.
Okay. But there are acquisitions sitting on the sidelines and acquisitions that are happening daily and weekly in multifamily that they're looking at how do you purchase a property, increase the value of that property. And so what I'm saying now is AI and technology and automation is truly the next new value add.
Right.
So we're very familiar with how to add value to properties. We buy new cabinets, new signage, new roofs, new gutters, all the things to essentially just ask the customer to pay more.
Mm-hmm.
But with AI, technology, innovation, and all these things together with the right leadership, you can go into a business, unlock value other investors don't even see.
Right.
And that's what I get excited about.
Yeah.
Is in some cases, it may be somebody pays a little bit more because they know they can operate in this new way.
Right.
Right. So now they have the deal.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, it didn't pencil with the way that they were thinking through it.
Yeah. No, and I think that's really smart because I think to even go further is what you're saying is we're so focused on the building itself as the value, right? What do we do physically to the building to make the improvements we need to get more capital, to get more, et cetera, right? So I think that what you're saying that's very interesting is adding AI is a non-physical value add that's really not much of an investment at all up front that you're going to see a return on immediately, which is really, really incredible.
Think about this. What's the typical situation with the renter, right? We require them certain levels of qualifications for their income, right?
Mm-hmm.
What do you guess that to be like in terms of a rent to income ratio?
I think it's like one paycheck needs to be
right.
about rent, right? Something like that.
Yeah. So let's just keep it simple and call it half.
Yeah.
And I don't think people are asking for one and a half, right?
Yes.
So
yeah.
Typically it could be 3 times depending on your properties and those types of things.
Mm-hmm.
So then you got to ask the question, what's happening with the rest of that customer income,
Mm-hmm.
right? They're spending that money in other places on the building.
Mm-hmm.
And when adjacent services come into the property from IoT services, cable, internet, TV services, dog walking services, there's all these types of things that allow that customer to enjoy their experience. And I think that there's an opportunity to aggregate some of these things in a way that increases the value of the leasing experience
Mm-hmm.
instead of just the cost
Right.
of renting.
Right. So you're kind of saying let me wrap my head around it. So like automating more of what your people on site are doing so that they have room to then take on some of these additional tasks or services that others are coming in and providing for our tenants and residents, correct?
It's interesting you say that because it depends on the investment objectives and the investment timelines of that investment group, right? And then also their company culture and their ability to execute and their business leaders' priorities.
Yeah.
Right. And so when you have those, you realize that we say multifamily is fragmented or even real estate, but the reality is it's that everybody just has their own unique company, their own unique people, their own unique business objectives and timelines.
Yeah.
So the question I have for you is like, how do you build software for that?
Right.
You can't.
Right.
I mean, you can, and it is happening, and there are some really great companies doing this, but the reality is to truly unlock the value, you want to be able to take a business problem, look at it, in that is what's going to impact the ability for us to either reduce expenses, operate leaner, or scale faster, and then be able to create micro solutions using technology to solve that problem. And it may not be a problem that's going to come knocking on the door from a sales rep because it's so micro to your unique business and micro to your unique problem or process.
Yeah.
So when you think about going back to my statement, the purpose of multifamily is to either create wealth and protect it, sometimes for generations. It's our obligation and our duty and our fiduciary responsibility to understand technology and what's possible to unlock those yields at properties.
Absolutely. Well, even the small yields, if we weren't even looking at adding additional items onto the leasing associate's plate or the community manager's plate, there's a very palpable distance right now between a corporate third-party manager trying to roll out a new technology, a new software, a new process on site to their teams. And then, oh, by the way, there's extremely high turnover at that level. So all of these technology pieces of software, et cetera, that we are rolling out get about 10% adoption. And I don't think that's because they're unengaged or they're not interested in learning. I think it's because they don't have the space to do that because they're doing these kind of rudimentary tasks that you're talking about automating.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that's some of these tasks. Somebody living in a modern world comes and joins an organization, and they could sometimes roll their eyes like, we got to do what? Why do we have to do it this way?
Yeah.
And I can appreciate that because, multifamily has been really successful. These owners and operators have really done a great job of buying the properties, taking care of the real estate, taking care of that investor. And because so much success, there hasn't been the necessity.
Right.
But now, with rising costs, you can't find talent. Just all costs in the business are going up. And the capital to put a deal together, and maybe if you're not doing deals, there's not transactional elements to support larger, robust management companies.
Right.
CEOs today have to find new paths to profitability. When you can bring AI and automation into a business, there are endless possibilities if you look at each department. Just look at all the due diligence, acquisitions, investor relations, payroll, HR, marketing. I haven't even talked about the PMS stuff, right? I'm talking about everything outside the PMS.
Yeah.
Anywhere somebody moves data from system A to system B, or where somebody's in Excel, or somebody has to do an attachment and send it to someone else, or they're looking at data and trying to make great business decisions. If you can't bring AI, automation, and technology together, then you're going to be leaving money and opportunity on the table. Now, with NectarFlow, it's our vision to make this easy for people because most of the times you have employee turnover and you're counting on maybe one or two people in your organization to figure all this out.
Right.
And that's very complicated and difficult. Now, if you're a public REIT, you'd be doing these things, right? But if you're not, with NectarFlow, we become your AI, innovation, technology, automation platform and team to help you not only help identify, but prioritize what we do first to crawl, walk, run with this process.
Right.
So it's profitable every step of the way. And you have somebody that you can grow and scale with. So for us, it's expectations. We believe people begin and end a process. But if I can take a 10-minute task to 3 minutes and automate 70, 80% of somebody's work, number one, they may stay at that job better or longer. They may be more excited about that job, and they may make better decisions because now everybody in the organization has access to an amazing assistant that used to be reserved for the CEOs.
Right.
So now with Nectar Flow, we can give every leasing agent, every accountant, every payroll manager, literally everybody in the organization, an AI agent assistant specifically structured for that company's, private information, and also their company values and, whatever they would normally train a human, we can train an AI agent to help the employee.
Yeah.
And that employee now benefits, like the CEO has had assistants for decades.
Right.
And I know those CEOs know the value of your assistant.
Yeah.
Now imagine every employee having that for you without the cost. It unlocks profitability, and this whole game, like, is AI going to take jobs? It's not. It's nothing to be afraid of. It's something to work along with and unlock as part of how work gets done now.
Yeah.
Because this is all at the beginning stages of this journey. And so to think you can just buy something off the shelf, fold it into your organization, and let it go is a little ambitious.
Right.
That's why our organization we've got professional services, managed services, and a team of developers ready standing by to help these companies move through this stuff.
Yeah.
That's what I'm excited about.
Yeah. And
because it's like you create value and it feels good.
It's very accurate. And I have to say, seeing Nectar Flow for the first time as a fresh set of eyes, I've seen a lot of AI integrated with other software that already exists, or programs that already exist, or people, trying to see where it fits within the program that they've already developed to solve a problem. And I think the difference with Nectar Flow is that you are looking at the business as a whole and essentially handing over a platform where someone can custom develop their AI solution into a workflow that they are already doing and just pull the pieces out that their people want to automate. And I think that's so intelligent because we're not saying here's the one thing we solve for and we also have some AI elements. We're saying we can solve for anything and you can control where AI lives in that process. And I think that is so powerful. And it also gives people this sense of control over the process. It's not just out of control. Whatever so-and-so develops is what I'm going to use. It's now, here's my AI. Here's where people play a part. They start and they end it. The process, they still review it. It's not out of control. It's manageable.
Yeah. And I mean, you said that beautifully. And I'll tell you that you don't have to worry about that AI being folded into anything else either, because in multifamily and any business really in the world, the large companies can't go that narrow. They can't build AI for every company, right? And what we know is that there's not, in our industry, OpenAI, Google, all these sort of open source large language models are investing billions and billions and billions of dollars with large data sets.
Yeah.
And so, those are the applications that are going to get folded into software.
Right.
But if you're using software that was designed for everyone, then you start to think about, well, how are you differentiating? It's almost like if everybody had the same website template, right?
Right.
And you want to get everybody to your property, and you want to have a little bit more control, and you want to make it this and make it that.
Right.
That's what we're giving to multifamily owners and operators and vendors and bankers, literally companies that are in the space, is the ability to bring this into your organization without hiring a data scientist, having a software engineer on staff, right? Needing an automation expert, right? And then also, knowing that we have a pretty good perspective of some of the work that multifamily owners and operators do today. So to your point, it's not you're buying software and then you got to figure out how to change the way to work for it to work. As you said, we meet you where you are. Let's just look at how work gets done. And in many cases, we can optimize the process before you automate, because sometimes people are doing tasks that otherwise shouldn't be be done.
Exactly. And to your point earlier, you said about having assistants and agents. I think to clarify for the larger audience, what I've seen in your assistants is that you're actually creating an agent that is training more of the large language model or whatever, IO trains the spreadsheet to pull certain data for you and organize it nicely, and certain tasks that are a little redundant for the average person to be doing. So talk a little more about those custom agent pieces.
So a lot of people are familiar. There's three things that happen in AI, really. You have the cognitive, you have the creative, and you have the companion, right? And we're focused on the cognitive. And you're going to see a lot of fun tools being created around creative, and you can do this with, this picture and turns into that. And it can be very interesting and fun, and pay attention to those things. But you have to look at, is there a real business behind what's happening here? Right. And so for what we're talking about is we're leveraging the billions and billions of dollars and focus and commitment to, in a competitive landscape, continually evolve large language model applications, right? So we are tapping into, and we can use all of them, right?
Right.
But what we do is we bring in the large language model paired with the company's own private information, and we can securely talk to that information, interact with that information, summarize that information, and get it to the employees so they can make great decisions, measure results, things like that. And because we're doing this programmatically, it's not, when you go to ChatGPT and you're in other applications, and I know there's settings you can do things, but the reality is you're putting information into the large language model, which is not what we're doing. We're doing it at the workflow level, which means sometimes a human may not even be involved. It may be an invoice came over here, we parsed it, it's now moving over here, it's now being structured and put into a database so the accountant can see it, and now they don't have to spend 3 weeks looking for or sending emails back and forth.
Yeah.
So, but we're using company data and retrieval and using vector databases to embed these to get better responses. And what's fascinating with this is beyond that, and then programmatically doing all this in the back end, is that we have certain use cases where we've trained it on a deep level expertise because we know certain things about certain things.
Yeah.
For example, how do you get somebody to buy something they don't need? Or how do you understand what the customer, a renter wants today? What frustrations have they gone through in the past? What buying decisions would they want to make in an urban living or pet-friendly living and these types of things? And so what we can do in the background at the system and role level is train this company's specific agent on things that would require you to hire a copywriter and spend $10,000 to pull this information together, right? So we're using a lot of things that are happening in the background that get better response than that's available in really any of the large language models today, or the Microsoft products or the Google products.
Yeah.
Because they're solving for mass industry.
Right.
We're talking about, well, what's important for you and your company and your information, and let's do that in a secure and productive way.
Yeah. No, I think it's really awesome. I've seen a lot of it, and you can even say, follow fair housing laws and make sure, certain things that might actually be missed in a human copywriter, but they can still review and post and make room for them to focus on things you might need a human copywriter for, like writing your brand guidelines or, those specific things that you're actually elevating the employee now to be able to focus on higher level projects than just drilling out blogs to increase SEO.
Yeah. I mean, generative, it generates new content, right? And so when we're doing things, we're really leaning into the content you already have and looking at ways to become productive and profitable. And again, focused on that cognitive. There was the cognitive, the creative, and the companion. We're focused on the cognitive, which means there's years of opportunity and work without taking a lot of AI risk by looking at summarization of these things, not mission critical things, right? A lot of people are trying to solve mission critical things, but things are moving so fast, it's tough to keep up with that.
Yeah.
I will tell you this. This is a great way to look at it, though. When I get on the whiteboard and I'm orchestrating and I'm talking to our developers and we're talking through these things, I realized, like, what is a company, right? And it's nothing more than a collection of people.
Mm-hmm.
And imagine back in the day, I mean, you had resources, right? And resources, think about it, resources get depleted, right? Assets increase in value over time.
Mm-hmm.
People are assets. That's why I've never liked human resources, because, talent acquisition, I like acquisition because you're acquiring something to improve the value of it.
Yeah.
Now, with a company, historically, you would have a company would need financial resources, their ability to get capital.
Mm-hmm.
They would need physical resources like buildings, more stores, more sales, right? We saw what happened to Blockbuster. They were just growth meant more stores. And then with that, you needed more people.
Mm-hmm.
So it was financial resources, physical resources, and human resources. And that was a company.
Right.
And then back in the day, it was like, how many employees work here? And as if that is the leading indicator to, like, this company is going to be strong and be there tomorrow. And what I'm saying, the fourth thing is, in this state of transformation that we're in, is that in terms of leverage, is this AI, technology, automation, leverage.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's a CEO listening and watching this, I'm thinking your job is to arrange these things and to bring the right people together and to protect capital and grow capital and understand how do you make a decision in a marketplace you don't understand. So technology is leverage like debt. So a CEO would never delegate the responsibility to negotiate with the banker, the lender,
Mm-hmm.
the JV partner, the equity partner. I mean, they are in those meetings and they are active, they're engaged, and they're involved.
Right.
And they bring the right people. They bring their CFO. They know themselves.
Mm-hmm.
They understand these things because they know it's important for the business.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm saying today, that's technology today.
Mm.
And if you're a CEO and you know that leverage and you can pull that leverage, you can unlock value other CEOs will be afraid of
Right.
and scared of, and they'll be reactive,
Yeah.
and they'll retreat, and they'll just push it off to their internal IT team, which, by the way, is completely capable of, like, working with us and doing these things, but
Right.
may not have the resources the organization has allocated,
Yeah.
right? So if I can wake up CEOs and realize, like, first, you're a technology company, right? There's go a day without interacting with a vendor. Nectarflow brings all these vendors together technically through APIs.
Yeah.
And so go a day without using technology. The shirt that you're wearing right now is technology. You're listening to technology. You're listening to my voice right now with technology.
Yeah.
And companies haven't realized it because they've been so good at the other way.
Right.
But when you compare it, when I say compare it, when you combine it with the ability to de-risk an organization because you understand these things, you see the organization differently because you know what's needed now. Because right now, people are overestimating. They're throwing people at a problem.
Yeah.
They need to look at what's the best way to solve this problem and who, not how do I solve it, can help me solve it. And I think that's what Nectarflow helps to do, is educate and bring some of that value to those executive leaders.
Yeah, and I think that, like I told you when I first saw Nectarflow, being able to visualize that, because that's a big thing for somebody to digest first and foremost, and then say, okay, where do I even begin, right? And so I think seeing it in a physical workflow, the way that Nectarflow has shown a workflow to be, where you can add AI into bits and pieces and you can still see, okay, this system speaks to this system, speaks to this, we add the AI agent right here. They help generate, they help optimize, and et cetera, you can actually see what you're automating and which pieces. And then you can start small, right? Start really small, and then you can slowly grow. And I've seen this on sales calls. I've seen this on calls with Nectarflow of, people's eyes open up and they say, well, wait, if I can blog, can't I do X? Can't I do Y? Can't I do Z? And their whole mind has to process the opportunities that have just presented themselves. And it's really hard to digest.
Yeah, I think most investors and asset managers and leaders today have grown up in a world that's changing. And it's the most exciting part because we get to experience the hard work before and now the easy work, right?
Yeah.
So then what do you do next? Well, you
Yeah.
have fun, you enjoy all this hard work. But I think executives have been historically familiar with watching work get done, like who's coming in early and who's leaving late and all that stuff. And that's a productivity thing, right? They should. Their job is to maximize the resources of the organization. But with this is, as you indicated, it's a way for an executive to see how work's getting done and where the processes can be simplified.
Yeah.
Right? I look at this like delegation, where you hire somebody to do a job, and what do they come with? They come with, experience.
Yeah.
They come with, some personal and individual knowledge. And then when they join our organization, we want them to know our company stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all we're doing with these agents. We're doing that, and I can create unlimited employees
Right.
for people.
Right.
And if you have employees, give them one of these employees because they will thank you, because life gets better when, the unfun work gets, put out of the way.
Yeah.
So I think when I say begin and end the process with people is when you delegate and you have a new hire, you give them a little bit, you give them something to start with, like try this, and then you observe them. And then maybe you inspect what you expect, right? Like you check their work, right? So with AI and automation, we can do the same thing.
Yeah.
So that gives every leader today the ability to say, you know what, I can get started today.
Mm-hmm.
I can do this and be part of this experience we're all in, right? And start making my business better without taking on a huge financial risk and a huge, disruptive process.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, just look at it like delegation.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way I see it. And it's super exciting because I hear often that people are hearing a lot of information about AI, and that's normal because everything will have AI in it.
Right.
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 So what's the differentiator is your company and your people.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And the AI for everyone can't solve for that.
Yeah.
Nectarflow can create an AI for you, for your company, and you can unlock that and unleash that however the heck you want it.
Yeah.
We're here to support doing it for you, or you can build alongside with you, or you may be capable to run with it on the platform. But in terms of platforms, we've first built on the PC platform, and then we built on the internet platform, and then we built on the mobile platform, and then we built on the cloud platform. So everybody listening today, we've already been through all this stuff.
Yeah.
And everybody was scared. And if you went way back, they were afraid of the radio. They thought that was going to manipulate minds, and people were like, oh my God, don't do the radio. It's normal for humans to feel this way through states of change. But I can remind everybody that people were afraid of the cloud. Where's our data? Where's it going? And like everything is passing through a browser or on an iOS device or Android device.
Yeah.
On an internet, in a mobile application, or in the cloud.
Yeah.
So the difference here with AI, though, is it's built on all of those things, and it's exponentially faster.
Right. Well, and what I love, again, about Nectarflow is that I've seen that you own your own data. So you have your own specific landing page that's your central hub for your company. Nobody else gets in and out. And everyone that you integrate with, meaning, platforms that you add into a workflow, whether that's, we post a blog and it ends up on WordPress. That's all just an integration, but it's completely owned by you, all of the integration itself and the workflow and the scenario. So I think that eliminates the fear, gives back the control, and allows you to play, like you said, have fun with it, because that's what I've seen. A lot of people just light up and say, wow, all of these things that I don't want to be doing, I can now automate. And to your point, I think, we think about the person in this and how people are going to react to the introduction of AI. You think your people are not using AI right now? You think your copywriter is not running a few things through ChatGPT. You think it's here. It's already being used. It's just, how do we do it in a way that's more secure, that's telling the right story, that's custom to us, that's running through fair housing laws. That's right. How are we now taking back control of things that people are already doing?
It's a true story. I mean, if you looked at the United States and you looked at all the different states and the boundaries of the states, you know what Florida looks like, in Texas and Arizona and all these states. You visually have seen that map so much that you know where those borders are from each state to state. All we are is the highways that go between them, that allow that data to move between. If each state was an application in your business, by the way, those applications are coming a lot faster than they have.
Yeah.
So if you have 100 you're using today, maybe 250 tomorrow. And so with those different states and, those highways make the states more valuable because the way that things flow between them. And that's another thing that's important about Nectar Flow, is to know that, historically, when you think of like an API, application programming interface, you look at developers doing that work and not the people that actually are involved in the workflow or the process. So when you bring technologies like Nectar Flow together, and it allows people that are actually doing the work to have visibility of how these things are connected, you're giving the people doing the work the ability to make the work better instead of having it programmatically in code that the people doing the work don't even know what's happening. I think that's another interesting component.
Well, it's true. You hear people talk about your tech stack or whatever, that's a hot word right now. And someone will be like, well, actually, let me ask my IT department because I'm not sure who, and so to be able to literally say, what's your tech stack for X, Y, or Z workflow? And for you to be able to pull up that workflow and say, oh, well, we have this system that speaks to this system, that speaks to this system. To be able to view that as a CEO or an owner, I think that is so powerful, to be able to see where your data is flowing and have that visibility.
The visibility part is key. Another thing to understand is each organization that comes onto Nectar Flow as a new customer gets an enterprise environment, which means they are able to organize at the organizational level different workflows for different departments. So maybe human resources has a workflow that marketing doesn't need to see, right? Or payroll, or investor relations, or acquisitions, due diligence. Maybe you have contractors, right? You have all these different departments in your business, and these things can get organized by teams and then by users. So many people are knowing like they need to be building their own things, but they're using consultants.
Yeah.
Now the trouble with that is, where's that work stored and saved?
Their personal drive.
In a consultant's environment, whatever. And so now this allows an organization, a multifamily company or any company really, to provide that same consultant the access to connect to the things they need to connect to, but in an environment that organization has visibility, transparency, error reporting, queuing, all these things that are important to be able to turn on and off.
Yeah.
And provision users and provision access.
Right.
It's super important. And then at the property level, it may be, leasing and marketing and maintenance and maybe events or concierge. I mean, you have all these different sort of business units within the business.
Right.
And they all have their own little workflows. If you were a public REIT or a big organization and you had millions and millions of dollars to do this, you would structure this. What we've done is we've went out there and spent all that money to give you that environment. And then it's just a lot more affordable for people to access it, of course, on Nectar Flow. And then you get the team, I think, to help implement and come up with new, fresh ideas and make their processes, more productive.
I like it. I think it's a very valuable product, and I think a lot of people are gonna want to see it. So, for sure. Well, should we wrap on that, and we'll have you on again on your your innovation podcast?
Yeah, we it's a good point. We realize the more complex the thing is, the more time it takes to transfer the knowledge. So if you're listening to this, I'd go to nectarflow.com, click on the button, and it says talk to an integration expert or an automation expert. Get in touch with us, because it may be a lot easier than you're thinking it may be, right?
Yeah.
Get in touch with us. We have a whole team to support you, and we'd love to just have a conversation, because oftentimes you learn just by going through that process anyway. And you may walk away with something that makes your business better without even becoming a customer,
I love it.
right? So
Yeah. So visit nectarflow.com and we'll have Patrick back on again.